Good morning, everyone. I saw this picture on a Canadian subreddit. I think it's a Canadian picture, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's interesting. This illustrates the inconsistency of the rules around COVID-19, right? If you're on an airplane and it's mandatory that you wear a mask, but at the same time, not when you're eating. So is the virus not susceptible? Like, is it not contagious when you're eating, or is that just like an arbitrary rule? What about this one? COVID-19 notice. In order to prevent the possible spread of COVID-19, trails are closed to bicycles until further notice. Walking is permitted. So bicycles, those spread COVID-19. Walking, no problem. Same trail. Right? It seems odd to me. It seems weird. So here's John Tory. Oh, here he is. Here's John Tory. Improperly wearing a mask. The Reddit headline is basically John Tory puts the condom on the balls. And here is the letter John Tory released regarding the mask wearing and attendance at the Trinity Bellwoods Park. He says, I want to apologize for my personal behavior yesterday. I visited Trinity Bellwoods Park to try to determine why things were the way they were. It sounds like an All My Children episode, doesn't it? Okay, here's the letter. Oh, I should move over here. Hold on. There you go. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay. I want to apologize for my personal behavior yesterday. I visited Trinity Bellwoods Park to try to determine why things were the way they were. I fully intended to properly physically distance, but it was very difficult to do. I wore a mask into the park, but failed to use it properly. Another thing I'm disappointed about. There were mistakes that I made, and as a leader in this city, I know that I must set a better example going forward. So, I mean, here's the picture of him. Nope, that's the wrong one. Here it is again. And yeah, like he's not physically distancing, he's not wearing a mask, right? If one of those things works, why do you need both, right? Like if you can't physically distance, then wear a mask. But if you can physically distance, you don't need a mask. I don't know. Maybe he was not into. I don't know. But he's standing too close anyway. But I think like if you are a leader and you're not modeling the behavior you're expecting of your citizens, including like going to the park. And I'm glad to hear that. Well, here's the article about it. Here it is. There will be lessons learned from situation at Trinity Bellwoods Park, John Tory. Mayor John Tory says there will be lessons learned from the incident that unfolded on Saturday at Trinity Bellwoods Park, where he says out-of-control crowds gathered to party and enjoy the sunshine. Officials have estimated that as many as 10,000 people were at the downtown park on Saturday afternoon, where many gathered in large groups and drank alcohol as police and bylaw officers looked on. Police Chief Mark Saunders said Sunday that while several tickets were issued to people who urinated and defecated in the driveways and backyards of nearby homes, very few tickets were issued to the large swath of people ignoring physical distancing laws. Now, the bathrooms were closed because of COVID-19. That's disgusting, right? Like having people defecate there. And I mean, I'm not saying that they were right to do that. They were certainly not right to do that. But the bathrooms were closed. So is that helpful to have open defecation instead of having it put into the bathroom, right? And you can, I don't know. I don't think open defecation in Toronto is like a thing to celebrate at all, right? I think we seriously need to look at our policies if this is what it's ending up, if this is what's resulting, right? Really. And if the bathrooms need modification, then can we modify them somehow, right? If you buy into this, right? Like, and I mean, clearly the city has to buy into this because they've behaved that way, right? They have to take this seriously. They're taking this seriously. So taking this seriously does not mean just taking away citizens' tax paid for amenities, right? Okay, back to this. Mayor John Tory, who visited the park Sunday night to educate those not following the rules. This is the part that I thought was kind of like, this is the line they're going with. Like, this is the newspaper telling you what John Tory's intentions were. Mayor John Tory, who visited the park on Saturday night to educate those not following the rules. Did he say that in his letter? Did I miss that part? I went to educate people about the park. And all I did was increase the population of the park with a guy not wearing a mask at all. Right? Owner of Rogers. How do you wear a mask, sir? Okay. Really? Wild, right? So, but the CP24 wants you to understand that that was his intention. He went there to educate those not following the rules. Anyway, also, he came under fire after a photo surfaced of him wearing a mask incorrectly while standing too close to a group at the park. Lessons will be learned, including by me, and we will move forward and hopefully do better, Tory said during an interview with CP24 on Monday morning. In some parks, I scroll down, they drew big circles on the ground that sort of say that if you're going to have a group of people that are going to be properly socially distanced, then you have to sit in these circles, Tory said. The problem becomes, how do you enforce that when you put limits on every park? We have 1,500 parks in Toronto. There has to be a degree of personal responsibility. The mayor was quick to point out that the situation at Trinity Bellwoods Park this past weekend is not indicative of what went on across the city. There were parks that had lots of people in them, spaced out properly, and it wasn't a problem. There was a particular problem at this one park, he said. Quote, it's the nature of that neighborhood in terms of the high rises and whatnot, and we're going to have to take another look at that, hopefully without restricting the ability of people being able to use that wonderful park, because people don't have a backyard in many cases. Yeah, I mean, like, a backyard comes with your own bathroom. This place, people were defecating on driveways and backyards of other people. Yikes, right? Yikes. Last story for this morning. Sorry, I'm going to be very brief this morning. I've got lots to do, lots going on, I know. But City News is reporting MPs meeting to decide on resuming Parliament during pandemic. This is today, and it'll be interesting. They've got enough to not do anything. They've got enough to continue this virtual Parliament for a while. The NDP are playing ball. And I said at the beginning of this, looks like if the Bloc Québécois doesn't want to do it, then the NDP probably will. Right, so we've got a majority by another, a sheep in a majority clothing, or a wolf in majority. It was a bad metaphor. Okay, back to this. The House of Commons is meeting Monday to decide again how it's going to function as COVID-19 restrictions gradually lift across the country. The governing Liberals are proposing 4 sittings a week of a special committee to talk about the pandemic and how the government is responding to it, using a hybrid system with some MPs in the Commons chamber in Ottawa and others participating by video conference. They would also have 4 days scattered through the summer when MPs could press cabinet ministers on other issues. The Liberals appear to have the NDP's broad backing for the plan, which would be enough to get it passed today. The Conservatives have been pushing for many more normal sittings of the Commons with full-blown question periods and a chance to debate legislation, though with a limited number of MPs in the room to reduce the risk of spreading the novel coronavirus. The Commons has been working on how to hold debates and votes with some MPs participating remotely, but hasn't yet solved technical and security challenges. So they still have to pass things in the House of Commons. It's a slippery slope. This is fundamentally changing the way Canada is governed. It is needing less input from its elected officials even, and it is a terribly slippery slope. I'm very concerned about it, but it doesn't look like the majority of MPs or the leadership of a majority of parties are concerned at all about it. They are gleefully trying to get those security concerns solved so they can have, I don't know, by distance voting. And I think that it's folly to think that you can solve the voting problem and then say the voting and the debating problem is solved, because like in the House of Commons there's tradition and there's expectation and there's the way you get things done. And not necessarily that I agree with all of it. And certainly, like, it could be faster, it could be better, it could be more efficient. But you need to decide those things within the current system. You can't decide it on the fly in front of Rideau College, right? Like, I think that fundamentally, if you're building a new system and you want to incorporate the internet, you have to look at that seriously and not say we're gonna graft the old system onto this new internet and that's going to be what we're going to do, because it ends up in a reduced capacity, right? Like they're doing 4 sittings a week. 4 sittings a week. A week has 5 days. I work more than that, and just in this, I work more than that. And so it seems the reduced capacity, the reduced governance, the reduced ability to govern. And I don't think the government should be bigger. I think it should be more efficient in making decisions. I think that it should be robust in the conversation and not silencing the conversation because racist. Right? Like, that's the point, and that's the problem. They're not expanding what they should be expanding, and they're telling you, oh, we're doing it for the greater good, for your benefit. So there's a bigger voice, but it doesn't result in that, right? And that's the problem, and that's always been the problem with these liberals. They tell you one thing, and you end up with something completely different. How's that ice rink, right? The cost of the ice rink. How many millions did that cost? Ridiculous. They tell you one thing, and you get something completely different. Gun ban, right? And they're continuing to ban guns after the legislation was controversial and in the news. They're continuing. Shotguns were banned because of a gauge issue, right? It's incredible. It's incredible. It's a slippery slope, and we're enthusiastically sliding down it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I've got Greg on tomorrow, and I think Kelly Day, and I think she still goes by Day, but I'm not sure, on Thursday. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.